Should you be buying property to flip right now in the UK? Now, I've been involved in property now for well over a decade. I've bought 46 properties now at the time of recording this video. And I can say that flipping property is one of my favorite strategies. But one of the dangers or challenges with it and concerns that people have about it is what happens if you buy a property and by the time you've done all this refurbishment, you've made it look nice, then you come to sell it, property prices have dropped. What happens then? You could risk losing money, you could be in a really bad situation, and that can often put people off from ever getting involved in property flips. So having done this a while, what I would say personally is, first of all, you can't control what happens in the market. No one has a crystal ball. Things can change, market can fluctuate, it often does, and ultimately I've made money in different markets over the years, so I can say that you can't predict the future. And if you do nothing, you'll definitely not make any money from flipping property. So the right time to invest is really always, but you've just got to understand that you've got to protect yourself when you buy a property with enough profit margin, so when the market changes, or if it changes, you can still exit that deal and make a generous profit. So really, discount is absolutely crucial. When it comes to flipping property, you're not buying a property and hoping property values go up, that you make a profit. You're not relying on that. If it happens, it's a bonus. It's great when it happens, fantastic. But if you're relying on that happening, you'll be waiting a long time. It's only very rarely going to happen. So it's important to be able to lock in a big enough discount so that even if prices fall, you're still able to exit that deal and make a generous profit. Discount is key. And it's not discount off the asking price that matters, it's discount off true value. Being able to ascertain the true value and work backwards. What's the refurb cost going to be? What's the buying and selling cost going to be? What are the true holding costs going to be? So that's building insurance, that's utilities, that's council tax, that's everything, to know all of your costs. Stamp duty, legal fees, the lot. So you know you can position your offer in the best way to make sure that you're protected. So you've got enough profit margin locked in, so if you do need to reduce the price, you still exit with a generous profit. It might not be as much as you expected in the first place, but you can still make the profit and move on. Another thing to consider is if you're in a tough market, if you're buying in a tough market, this can be actually quite a good thing, because you'll find a lot of developers, a lot of amateur developers in particular, are running a mile. They're scared. They don't want to be involved. That's great because that's opportunity. That's less competition, and it means it's generally a little bit easier to find the best deals and to get those really good discounts. It's harder, generally speaking, though, in a bad market to exit at the figure that you want. Now, it's still possible if you're buying in high demand areas and you know you've done your research and you know you've done a good refurb and you know you've added value as much as possible, that you can exit well. There's just something to consider. You might have less buyers. It might take you, in some cases, a little bit longer to sell, but you need to make sure you've locked in enough discount. Succeeding in a tough market is absolutely possible. Like I said, it's generally easier to get the discounts in the first place. And in a booming market, when things are going really well, you might find it's a little bit harder actually to get into the deal at the right price. There's more competition, then it's a bit harder in that sense. It's still possible, and it's possible to get good discounts in any market. But at least when you sell, you've got the advantage of more competition from buyers, more likelihood of having your property go to best and final offers, potentially to exceed ceiling prices in best case scenarios. It's more likely to happen in a tough market. But the reality is people still buy properties regardless of what's happening in the market. So buying in the right area and protecting yourself with a big enough discount is crucial. And the biggest unfortunate timing, I suppose, in flipping property would be buying in a good market, and then by the time you sell it, market has gone down. That's the biggest risk. But how often is that going to happen anyway? It's not going to happen very often, realistically, over your lifetime as a property developer. And if it does, you've bought well enough to protect yourself. Worst case scenario, you'll do okay, and then the next deal you'll do even better. But if you do nothing, if you don't buy at all, then you'll definitely make no money when it comes to flipping property. So it's important to respect the market you're in, understanding that discount is key, discount on value, not just money off the asking price. Because if you get money off the asking price, that might be indicative of getting a good discount, but it might also just mean that you've got money off from an overpriced property that's been set too high by the agent or the overly optimistic seller or whatever. It doesn't necessarily guarantee you've got a good discount locked in. So understand the numbers, work backwards, understand all the true cost to lock in your profit day one when you buy, so that when you come to sell, good or bad market, you're protected enough to get a decent profit and move on to the next one.